who are these fathers, supposedly these fathers that we're listening to. And so before we get into that, though, with the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it is in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect tonight's message. Aman. Welcome to everybody. Thank you again. We appreciate you. We thank you so much for being on. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us. We don't take it lightly that you do so. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And once again, we appreciate your presence. Thanks for being on with us. Um, we give all honor and praise once again to Yahweh Elohim. We give all praise and honor to him. For my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We thank you all for being on. Appreciate you. To the moderators, ministerial staff, those who agree with us, disagree with us, etc. We appreciate your time. We don't take it lightly that you would spend some time. Those who get your time, talent, effort, energy, gifts, words, etc. Even finances. For those of you who help us to do things around the world, we appreciate you. We take time out to get into today. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Hello, how you doing? How you doing, Spike Me? How you doing, Son of a King? How are you doing, Sister Beverly, Sister Marion, Sister Cynthia, Sister Deborah, uh, Minister Joseph? Once again, happy born day unto you, sir. One more again, user 36613, etc. Thank you for being on. Globe Leader, how you doing? 326 JoJo Dancer. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I wanted to use an example of Andrew Tate tonight. Because Andrew Tate is a great example of many people who were listening to the red pill fascination, men who were saying we're going to be, thank you, Original, appreciate that. Men who are saying we're going to take our manhood back. We're going to become great. We're going to teach men even how to be fathers and how to sire these great kings. And we assume that just because somebody is rich, that they actually are ready to tell you how to be a father. Bad assumption. We assume that because somebody is listened to, that they are ready to tell you how to be a father. How you doing, Pastor Hamilton? Thanks for the love. Hopefully you and First Lady are doing well. We assume that because somebody is a brother or black or has black blood sometimes, that it means that they're automatically ready to be in these positions. How you doing? Is it Lee Rod? Sorry. He is a father. Okay, cool. There's a lot of fathers that aren't great fathers. Is my point. And Andrew Tate is somebody that we listen to who's often telling you about how his experience with his own father taught him how to be a man and gives you so many great things. But have you ever studied Andrew Tate's father? Before we keep putting him up on this pedestal, and now Andrew Tate's father seems to be posted about just as much as Andrew Tate is. But have you ever studied Andrew Tate's childhood? See, because like we say, the blind can lead the blind. Well, what happens when the fatherless lead the fatherless? And I'm talking about cultural perspective. So I know some people can go, he's a father because he has a child. That doesn't make you a father, right? In our culture, you're supposed to be trained to be a father before you even become one. You're supposed to be trained before a husband before you even become one. And many people are out here without manuals trying to make sure that they allow two people to become one. So we got to ask ourselves, what is it that attracts us to these men who are telling us how to be men and are not anything more than people who are, you know, adult males, and they're telling us how to be fathers, and they themselves didn't even have people that we would qualify to be fathers. For example, when it comes to Andrew Tate, he's not the only one. He's just one that's easy to bring up because he's puts himself out there. And so if you put yourself out there, he's one who says he doesn't mind being tested in his belief in things. So, I'm not in a position where Andrew Tate would listen to me or even come, holler at me or be on a podcast, something like that. Maybe one day I'll be, high enough where he even takes notice, or somebody who does things where he'll feel like, hey, something, about me is worth doing. He usually comes in very controlled settings. And if he doesn't, he comes to places where he knows at least he'll be able to be on TV, be able to shift the narrative and change it some and move the goalposts. How you doing, Ms. Mac? Right? Usually. I could be off on that. Maybe that's not his personal feeling, but here's some things about Andrew Tate that we don't talk about. Why is it that Andrew Tate never even told you he had children? Then all of a sudden come to find out not only does he have children, but he has many children by many wives, and then tells you, right? And then tells you straight up, Oh yeah. Well, he didn't tell you. He got caught. It was supposed to be a secret. But he was busy telling you why he was while he was having all these children. He was never telling you that he wasn't disciplined in that area. He kept telling you that you needed to be like a Muslim. Y'all remember that? Be like a Muslim. And I'm not here to talk bad about Ishmael. I'm here to tell you that he was busy saying, be disciplined like a Muslim. Take care of your children. But he's not there for his children. But it doesn't matter because he's Andrew Tate. He can fight. He seems to be rich, so he says he's rich enough to do whatever he wants, and maybe he is. What does that mean, though, as far as his children are concerned? What does that mean as far as manhood? When the fatherless are leading the fatherless, when people say his father was he knew who his father was. His father was a avid and great chess player, so a highly intelligent brother. His father had him, and at least his brother had at least two boys. His father would leave out of nowhere and go on a chess tournament. Wouldn't tell his wife, Andrew Tate's mother, who he seems to not care about what was happening to her. But he would, and this is how he was trained. I want you to see this. He would leave, and his father, rather, Andrew Tate's father, would leave for months at a time, would come back home out the blue, wouldn't tell his wife where he'd been, anything like that, wouldn't even really talk to her. She would look in his pockets, trying to still do his laundry and do her wifely duties. And when she would look in his pocket, she would pull out pictures of other women and would say, who are these other women? And why didn't you call me? And what is this? And ask questions a wife should be able to ask her husband. And when she would ask these questions, Andrew Tate's father would look at his sons. This was the example he gave. He would look at his sons and say, I've only been back 41 hours and see what she's doing. Sorry, guys, I can't stay. And he would leave and leave his mother again. Now, he might call on the phone to talk to his children every once in a while. But he's cheating on his wife. Who knows if he's got other children out there? We don't know. Not really my business. But I'm saying if Andrew Tate's going to keep putting out this thing of, hey, he knows what a father is. Well, would you call it a father? Physical father, sure. Well, what kind of ideology does that put in a young boy's mind that now becomes this man that's trying to tell people how to be fathers and tells you that it's okay for him not to be there for his children and tells you that doesn't matter because he's rich? Like it didn't matter because his father played chess. We talk about the blind leading the blind, but what about the fatherless leading the fatherless? So you think he's a father physically and that's it, but what about psychologically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? What about Andrew Tate, who went over his friend's house, saw that his friend had a nightlight, came home, said he wanted a nightlight because he doesn't like being in the dark like his friend did. His father throws him in the closet, leaves him there overnight, takes him out the next day, and while he throws him in the closet, tells him the boogeyman is inside and leaves him in there overnight. Throwing your child in a closet and making them sleep in the closet, if they can even lay down, not enough room to lay down, got to just sit there. But he says, hey, I came out, I made it, and ever since then I wasn't scared of the dark. You had a traumatic experience, bro. Your father thought it was more important to give you trauma and say, see, you work through the trauma on your own, a little boy. What does that do to a little boy? Yeah, what does that do to a little boy? That's abuse. That's torture. Any father who would throw his child in the closet and leave him there overnight, that's not something to be proud of. But Andrew Tate says, no, he even taught me to man up. No, that's not something to sit there and act like that's masculinity. That's not masculinity. That's not toxic masculinity. It's not masculinity. It's not kingdom oriented. It's not father oriented. It is sick. Your father had issues. And to blow it up as if it's something that's positive is something that's wrong. See, Andrew Tate is the fatherless leading the fatherless, the blind leading the blind, the person who never had a great example. Yeah, you had a father in the house, but you might as well as not even had him in the house if he was going to do those things to you. We talk about, once again, the blind leading the blind, but what about the fatherless leading the fatherless? We're having a generation of fatherless boys. who are raising fatherless boys, who will raise fatherless boys. And the further we get away from the original fatherless boy, the worse it gets, because every copy is worse than the original. An original gold lettered, 1611 King James Version is a lot less than the Dollar Tree King James Version. The further you get away from the original, the less money it is, the less value it holds. Fatherless. Your idea of a father comes from a man that's jacked up. Now, none of our fathers are perfect. However, it is a far cry from an imperfect father and a father that says that his imperfections must be continued to go for generations. When do men stand up and say, look, Andrew Tate, yeah, you might say some things that are right here or there, but just because you're right doesn't mean that you're a father. Just because you're right about one thing doesn't mean you're right. Of course, Andrew Tate would mistreat women, tell you that you should mistreat women. Andrew Tate has said things like, hey, when my girl, when she starts acting up or whatever, I'll F her, right? This is what he said. He said, I'll F her to where she feels insecure. I'll F her to where she feels like nothing. Not that she feels like she's loved. I'll F her to where she feels like she's nothing. In other words, I'll treat her like a piece of trash. He said, I'll F her like I don't need her. This is what he's teaching these grown boys. Fatherless leading the fatherless, blind leading the blind. But he's on a pedestal in this society. He's on a pedestal. Yes, he is. I don't care for canceling Andrew Tate. I don't care for blocking Andrew Tate. I don't care for canceling or blocking anybody. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's foolish. However, I'm talking about the fatherless leading the fatherless. You think just because his father was physically there, his father actually was qualified as a father. See, that's the problem. I'm sorry, you said Andrew Tate is a female figure that we need male. Hold on. He's a male figure that we need. Male masculinity isn't something we have in America. Well, what's your definition of masculinity? Number one, masculinity isn't toxic, but also Watch this. Masculinity is not somebody sagging their pants. Masculinity is not somebody hitting a woman. Masculinity is not having sex with somebody. Little boys can do that. That doesn't make him more masculine, right? A boy going through puberty can impregnate a woman. It happens all the time when these women mess with little boys, right? So what is you have to educate me just a little bit if you don't mind. You have to help me. What do you define as masculinity? What is it that Andrew Tate is bringing you, and what is the cultural perspective that you want? You said that's my definition of masculinity. I haven't even defined my definition of masculine. I said what is so before we go there, that's not even apologetically sound. That's not even a great way to have an argument to tell me that I said something I didn't say. But I'm giving you a chance, a platform, since we're busy telling people what you're busy, instead of being busy telling me what masculinity is, because I believe that masculinity is not toxic. I believe, now if you want to say America doesn't have masculinity, there are many people who've never seen masculinity. Masculinity is being able to have you try to tell me that I said something I didn't say and me still giving you a platform because I respect you as a man. That's masculinity. True masculinity. Masculinity is loving even those who we don't consider to be within our version of masculinity, but still showing them love and identifying them as human beings. Masculinity is making sure that your wife feels secure so that you deserve respect. You said that's my definition. Okay. That means that you don't have anything of value to say back. Like, I'm giving you a chance to say something valuable, not to just try and use ad hominem or try to make a straw man out of something or to gaslight. How you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Maya. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist. Biologist by degree. By the way, me making sure I introduce my wife whenever she comes on, that's masculinity. No, you don't care enough to argue, but you care enough to keep saying I'm wrong. So that's an argument within itself. But either way, that's fine. That I won't give you. I won't do what I was desiring to do, which is give you a platform to actually speak your mind, not to argue, but to actually speak. You said, what is toxic masculinity? I just told you masculinity is not toxic. Right? Hey, you said you weren't going to argue. I'll go ahead and leave you alone. You had a chance to speak. Now you're arguing. Whether I said you said something wrong or you said I said something wrong. Have a great night. So masculinity is not toxic, but many people have not lived masculinity. We've had the blind leading the blind, the fatherless leading the fatherless. I found it, yeah, for the evening, yeah, yeah. We are all mixed up now, right? So we have to realize, we have to recognize, like when we're dealing with a lot of this stuff, you're dealing with a lot of people who are not even able to have a masculine conversation. Like two men could have had a conversation easily, and the whole thing was, "I'm going to tell you why you're wrong." Right now, that's not masculinity, but it is toxic. ANW, and I hope you have a great day. Right? Like that's toxic. Hello, Barak Allah Achamayam. I'm sorry, Acham Yahweh. How you doing? Elion. Right. So we have this thing where we've had the fatherless leading the fatherless. We have the fatherless leading the fatherless. Oh, thank you, Sister Irene. And I'm trying my best to. I'm still learning. Right. The blind leading the blind, the boys leading the boys, the fatherless leading the fatherless. Once again, you can't tell me, Andrew Tate, that your father was a great example, but he would always cheat on your mom and he would leave for months at a time. And then when your mom confronted him on his cheating, he would just leave for another few months at a time until he basically had a woman who was so and I don't even know if she stayed with him, but he basically thought that he could be abusive to her long enough that she would just go ahead and fall for it and say that that's okay. Now all of a sudden you have, and the brothers are coming on. I don't know if it's brothers, but supposed men are coming on here trying to defend that as masculinity. The same person is telling you that you should be disciplined. Show me where that's discipline. Is discipline to disrespect your wife over and over again, to cheat on her, to bring pictures in of you cheating on her, and then when she confronts you, to not even have the accountability, the decency, the responsibility, and the masculinity to be able to say, "Well, at least you found out." Can't even give her that. How you doing, Sister Sharice? Thanks for being part of the community, Asmo. Appreciate it. How you doing, Uno Nuno? And Sister Rhonda. Thank you very much, Asmo. I appreciate that, right? We have all these people talking about stuff, but once again, the fatherless are leading the fatherless. Now, the word Abba, father, in our culture, it means source. So we're going to talk about masculinity. What is the source? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. You want to be masculine. You want to be the king. You want to be the man. Okay. What is this? What are you as a source? See, because no woman is supposed to be in submission. If you want to have a submitted woman, this is what a woman submits to. She does not submit to a man. She submits to a mission. See, so the person was asking me earlier, what is the definition of masculinity? Where in our cultural context, you have to have a mission worth submitting to, and you should be more submitted to the mission than your wife should be. But a lot of y'all don't even want wives because you don't want to be held accountable in the relationship. You want multiple women to be able to have sex with, all of them bow down, all of them say that you're the man, and you're hoping that they'll treat you the way that Andrew Tate's women do. Which, by the way, Andrew Tate doesn't go out with women; he goes out with a bunch of girls. Y'all would call them chicken heads, stuff like that, right? You would call them, HOs. You would call them women that are out there looking for money. And so they don't care how Tate treats them, because Andrew Tate will make sure that he takes them on a trip around the world, that they just shut up and take it. And you don't even have the money to mistreat women the way that he does. You want to mistreat women and don't at least pay them off with money. Andrew Tate is pimping these girls, and you ain't got no money to pimp them. You ain't got no territory. You ain't got no street corner. You ain't got nothing to protect your girls, but you want to pimp them. You gotta ask yourself. You gotta ask yourself, what are you doing? How are you thinking out here? What mindset? Even if you're gonna mistreat them, you gotta at least have a way to protect them. Even the pimp has to be able to protect the woman. Y'all know what y'all would call it, but that's what y'all want. Y'all don't want real women. Y'all want HOs without protecting them, without being able to say you belong to me and nobody else. Andrew Tate gets away with stuff you couldn't even get away with. But see, once again, you're following a fatherless pimp rather than trying to follow people that are trying to be men. The fatherless leading the fatherless, the blind leading the blind. That's real talk. And that's why people don't like to hear this. You've never had to be held accountable. Andrew Tate doesn't say hold yourself accountable. Andrew Tate was disciplined as far as beating people up. And he took a beating people up mentality and a father who didn't care about his mother and made himself a millionaire. And he's an incomplete human being who is not willing to make sure that you become whole. Yet you lift him up. Yeah, they want pretty, loyal, silent brains images of women, right? And the women, by the way, they're not brainless. They've done the math. They've calculated in their head. For them, they've decided in their calculation it's worth being mistreated as long as they get paid. Yeah, like my wife's saying, his own father didn't show love, but his mindset is, well, he looks up to his father, so whatever his father did, that's what he's going to go by. I put a video out. I can't remember on which platform or which channel, but I put a video out there earlier. Consciously asked a question, you know he quotes something, but he asked a question like, what do you guys think about the fact that there's a lot of people who grew up in love, and do they act different than people who grew up trying to survive, right? And I said straight up, there's a lot of people who grew up and thought that love and survival are the same thing, because love is just an action. You said you don't know if you agree with me about Andrew, but everyone has their opinion. That's no problem. I'm not here to ask for your agreement. I'm giving the cultural context. Right? If you disagree with me about Andrew, that's fine. I'm saying that I don't think it's okay for somebody to tell you to be disciplined and have many different children by many different girls, not to marry the girls, and to barely be in his children's lives, and to act like we should glorify a father who throws them in a closet overnight and tells them to get over it and sleep in there, tells them the boogeyman's in there, and tells them that's how you're going to get over the dark. That's abuse. If you say that that's not abusive, fine, right? But I don't think it's okay. I would not take any child that's ever been in my care. I would never take them, throw them in a closet overnight, and leave them there until I felt like dealing with them in the morning. Okay, fashionista, whichever. All right. If your whole thing is to argue, you came to the wrong place. You can win. You can be right. I don't care about winning the argument. You can be right. My goal is righteousness. So at the end of the day, Andrew Tate is Andrew Tate. People are trying their best. I don't agree with you about Andrew Tate. I didn't say this. See, you can't argue what I'm saying. So you try to argue me, right? You said afraid Americans spend over $3 billion in tennis shoes. They got a problem. Um, sure. That's not what I'm talking about tonight, but thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, a lot of people do. Right. A lot of other countries spend a whole lot of money on shoes and frivolous things as well. They just don't have as many people, so they probably can't spend as much money on it. But I see what you're saying. That's problematic. How you doing, Big Ock? So we have a problem with the fatherless or leading the fatherless. And here's the issue: people don't care about being fathers. People don't care about being fathers. So Andrew Tate, as long as he beats people up and as long as he says, look how rich I am, you don't care about the fact that he's fatherless and he's trying to teach men how to be fatherless. He's not coaching them through being fatherless. He's teaching them how to be fatherless, how to remain fatherless, how to not know what a father is in their mind, and to train another generation to treat these boys as they don't have a father. Yeah, right, Minister Knight. People don't care. We live in a society where people don't even think it's necessary. We live in a society today where people don't even believe that it's necessary to have a father. What's a father for? If you don't think a father is necessary, of course you wouldn't mind fatherless people, people who don't know what a father is trying to tell you. See, because guess what? If I'm going to talk to another man, in a sense, I become his father. If I'm going to tell him about how to be a better man, I'm also telling him how to be a better father. Even if it's in a spiritual sense, even if it's in a psychological sense, even if it's in a coaching sense, that man might be older than me, but I'm taking the place of his father for a second to be able to give him some advice, to be able to bless him when it comes to his children. Yeah, a lot of people trained to think trauma is excellent. And once again, see, he's a manly man because he went through trauma and he came out all right. Well, did he come out all right if he told you that he's thankful for his trauma and how he should continue to give this trauma to others? See, I'm thankful that I made it through my trauma. And I'm thankful and grateful that I made it through my trauma, but I'm not trying to give that trauma to the next generation. I'm going to teach that generation that the trauma exists, but I don't need, if I got a whipping, right? This is where we be messing up. If the slave master taught generations to go out there and get a tree and braid it up and whip you until you couldn't sit down anymore, at some point somebody had to go from the tree to say, okay, well, it's a belt. Somebody had to go from the belt to say, okay, maybe I'll use the paddle. Somebody had to go from the paddle to say, you know what, maybe I'll just go ahead and use my hand. Somebody had to eventually say, look, spankings and used when they're just necessary, but I ain't just whipping you just because. At some point somebody got to say, we got to break this thing. You know, yeah, serial killers come out of stuff like that, right? We respect the fact that he can beat somebody up, but what does that have to do with him being a father? Yeah, we inflict trauma. We don't teach people how to get through trauma. We tell them, don't cry. How dare you cry? You're weak. You're not as strong. You're not as powerful. You never tell them that, hey, man, you know what? That same Andrew Tate that says, don't cry, you know, there was a time that he couldn't break a board with his hand. And when he did, it hurt and he probably cried. But he cried while he pushed through. Crying is all right. Yeah, we got to be curse breakers. See, but a lot of people like to live in curses, if we be honest. And we like to curse other people's with unfounded thought, unfounded thought, right? These little boys out here, this is the problem. Your boys are out here shooting people up everywhere you look around. Every person that raps, every person that freestyle. It used to be you could freestyle about some great stuff about your community. Now we want to hear you freestyle about, you know, everything pulling out, making sure I'm ready, right? This, that, whatever. Like we think that real men have to do with, you know, Jordans being stepped on and going ahead and shooting somebody. Why? Because a real man is somebody that wouldn't let somebody disrespect their shoes. What are you talking about? A real man won't let, like, think about these people on here give birth to other brothers out here who be sitting up here telling y'all stuff like Fresh and Fit and people like that be telling you that girls shouldn't have women shouldn't have Instagram accounts. My woman shouldn't have an Instagram account. I should have one, but she shouldn't because she's my woman. What does that even do? What does that mean? Well, that way she wouldn't be able to DM somebody. It's disrespectful for a woman, but you could DM somebody. Yeah, they lack knowledge. They have no intimacy with manhood. Shabbat shalom, Kinkless. How you doing? Right? Like you are sick. You know what you're afraid of when you talk about your girl shouldn't have an Instagram account because you're saying that you think that she would cheat on you. You're afraid that you're not man enough to where your wife or your girl or whatever you calling her wouldn't feel the need to have to talk to somebody. Talking about I should be able to check her phone. She shouldn't be able to check my phone, but I should be able to check her phone. No, you don't need to check her phone if you're confident in what you do. Why do you need to have that control? You need to have that control because you know you don't quite measure up. Uh-oh. You don't measure up. And you know that your wife will see somebody else and be like, since you don't measure up, you inherently know, okay, she might find somebody else that actually, you know, treats her with respect. You know, people do that. Women do that too. You know, sisters, y'all know y'all be doing that too, right? Won't sow into your man. I hear this all the time. Won't sow into your man, but then all of a sudden somebody else sows into him and now you mad, right? Brothers, same thing that y'all be talking bad about them when they do it. You got to recognize what you're doing, right? You don't say I love you. You don't say you look beautiful. You don't make sure you dote upon her. You don't give her flowers. You don't see what her favorite thing is. You don't learn about her interests. You don't speak her love language. Somebody speaks her love language, and now you're like, I got to check her phone because you're afraid. And the reality is, you should be secure enough in yourself, anyways, to where if you get with somebody and she decides when you love her to go ahead and love somebody else, anyways, then you know, or love her and treat them equal to what she should be treating you, then you know what? You should be confident enough in yourself to say, hey, I know my value. I check out. I bow out gracefully. Thank you. You see, you lack confidence. right? You lack the confidence because you lack the competence. How you doing, Max? Thanks for being on. You lack the confidence because you lack the competence. You think that the person who acts out, see, a real testosterone driven man, the more testosterone I have, the calmer I am. Did you know that? Men who have too much estrogen, they act up. Men who act too fit, men who are too feminine, they get out of pocket. Too much estrogen, it causes them to be aggressive. If you want to see if somebody cheats and they're taking hormones and stuff like that, what do you need? You need to check and see what their estrogen level is. If their estrogen level spikes, you know that they took too much because a calm man, even when he's in sports and everything, right? When he's in his element and everything, when he calms back down, it's testosterone. When a man watches a sports game and stuff like that, let him watch the sports game. As soon as he finishes and everything, he'll get to a place where he calms down. Why does he calm down? Because he's calm. He's in a place where testosterone levels are proper. But man, give him some estrogen. Give him something that causes fake estrogen, soy, things like that. See how rude he becomes. See how much now he's running off at the mouth. When his hormones are imbalanced, when his testosterone's where it's supposed to be, he's straight. Yet you have these brothers who are saying, "Give me this," and a woman shouldn't do this, and they're yelling at these women on their shows. Your estrogen level is wrong, bro. You're not in the masculine place right now. You actually in a very feminine place, right? The only time that your man starts yelling is when look, your man will be like, okay, he'll listen to you, hear you, then he'll be like, okay, look, this is blah blah. And if you start getting to the place where you won't let him finish his thought, then he explodes. When he explodes, you start saying, oh, you acting just like a woman. Yeah, because he was initially trying to be in a masculine place. But then you wouldn't allow him to go there. And so he was like, well, feminine energy, I'm giving feminine energy, feminine energy. The only way I can respond, feminine energy, he blows up. A calm man is a masculine man, a man who has to yell at everybody, right? A man who yells at everybody, you got to see, man, he might be a little too in the feminine. A man that always has to be right. And look, I know that that's a lot coming from somebody like myself, right? But I'm just gonna keep it 100. Somebody who cannot be teachable, you got to see if hey, you're not in masculinity. You're in something that's toxic. Tate is black excellence. Okay. Once again, Tate is somebody who doesn't take care of his children properly. Tate is somebody whose father threw him and abused him all over the place. Tate is somebody who's trying to tell you guys how to make sure that he treats women and doesn't tell you that these women only go for that stuff because he makes money. You don't make enough money, and then you're trying to figure out why women don't go to you and why you can't live in black excellence. You can't live in black excellence because it's not black excellence. It's something that's there for women who want to be mistreated as long as they get paid. Nevertheless, though, you keep on keeping on and keep thinking that you're gonna make your little 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 80,000 a year and think that some woman's gonna take what it is that Andrew Tate. See, she at least gets paid for her stuff. Give her a couple million, she'll shut up, go ahead. You can slap me around, you can mistreat me in the bedroom, you can treat me like crap publicly and talk trash about me, all that stuff. You can do that all you want. That's what y'all want. Y'all want somebody to mistreat. Andrew Tate has enough money to mistreat women. You know, he gets to treat them like H words, and that's what y'all like. But for those of us that want wives, those of you who want to be held accountable, those of you who are disciplined enough to make sure that you make a woman's life great at every chance you get, rather than only when she will be subservient. Those of you who want to be submitted to a mission and you're in submission to a mission that's greater than yourself before you ask a wife to come in and be submitted to the same mission, not submitted to a man, but submitted to a man on a mission, really submitted to the mission of the man, which means that by proxy, if she submits to the same mission, she'll submit to the man, but you're not ready for that. You're not ready for accountability. You're not ready for an audit in your life where somebody gets to come and say, hey, how do you treat women again? You're not ready for somebody to come and look at your children. Look beyond the curtain. Open the curtain up and look at Andrew Tate's life. You think because he drives fast cars, that means he's a great husband? Sadly mistaken. You think because he can get on a private jet, he's a great person? Okay. Harvey Weinstein had a lot of money. He mistreated women too. Kanye West had a lot of money. He mistreated women too. Hush goes over the crowd. You said not being rich doesn't make you any worse or better than someone who is. Um, it doesn't. You're absolutely right. It just allows you to magnify it. See, if you're a jerk, most jerks, male or female, most people that are jerks towards people, you don't know if they ain't got no money, if they don't have any prestige, if they don't have any social media following. But give a jerk social media following, you'll find it real quick. Give somebody access to money, access to power, and access to sex. See how disciplined they are. See how they treat people. See how they mistreat people. There's a great movie for that, by the way. It's a cartoon. I forget what a Megamind, the movie where Will Ferrell plays a villain, and then the Superman guy actually is like kind of trash, and the guy who's there's a guy who has a crush on this girl, and he's really a jerk. He's really like a complete jerk, and there's signs of it, but nobody cares about him. You don't even think about him even becoming a villain. But then they give him superpowers, and when he gets superpowers, he basically like comes this close to forcing the leading female role into you know what, and she doesn't really want to go there with him. And then from that point on, he basically just is like starts bullying people, doing all this stuff or whatever. But he was always a jerk. He just didn't have any power. You introduce power to somebody, and now we see who you really are, right? So if your whole thing is just to be like, oh yeah, well, not being rich, it doesn't make you better or worse than anybody else. You got to ask yourself, like, why do you think that, like, would you care about Andrew Tate if he was saying the same thing, but he wasn't making millions? And that's a dangerous place to go. Like, the only reason why y'all listen to Bill Gates, who's not a doctor, by the way, and Bill Gates, who really doesn't make technology, he just patents stuff. But, you know, if when it comes to, Bill Gates, y'all listen to him when it came to a shot because he's a billionaire. But he said a lot of inaccurate information, whether you're on either side of the fence. He said a lot of inaccuracies. Bill Gates keeps telling you there's not enough food to feed the world, but Bill Gates, he owns what is it, 300,000 acres of land? It won't grow any food for you. But you respect him because he makes money. Some of y'all respect Oprah Winfrey and want to see what the book of the month is because she makes a lot of money. But Oprah Winfrey, she got Stedman living in a whole nother house. How's she gonna teach you and I about relationship and she ain't in that house? By the way, there's rumors that say that she might not even be in the men. And she wouldn't make sure, but she wants to make sure she lives a certain way to where y'all think that she's a certain thing, at least on the surface. And she doesn't have to worry about common law marriage because she doesn't live in the same house. Not all skin folk is kinfolk. I can bring up black folk too if you want that don't do well. I already had before Oprah. Heck, Andrew Tate is black by a lot of y'all definition, or his father's black, his mother's white European. However you want to look at it, mixed race, whatever you guys do with that, whatever you need to call them, you call them that for yourself, right? But you're letting people who didn't have their father. Once again, Andrew Tate's father, he was not in his life, y'all. Andrew Tate's father would leave for months, come back, be accused of cheating, leave for months again, come back, be accused of cheating, and keep doing that until eventually his wife just fell in line. Then he come back for a little bit, sit there, let her be subservient, and then leave again anyways. That's who's leading you in this idea of manhood. And then when somebody says something about it, you call us a simp, or you say that we're not righteous, or you try to tell us why we're wrong, this and that, or whatever. You're not willing to look at the fact that you're dealing with somebody who never had a real father, right? And when I say real father, I'm not talking about the fact that he gave sperm, because a 12-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, whenever you have puberty, you can sire a child, but it doesn't mean that you're ready to teach that child how to become a king. But this person that you've made your king, he is not worthy of it. He was I don't want to use that term. I was about to use it. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for stopping me, right? He was fatherless in the spirit. He was fatherless emotionally. Hey, Kevin Samuel, divorced, all that stuff. Hey, right? Kevin Samuel divorced twice. Was telling y'all about stuff. What about Derek Jackson. Literally had the woman's house that he was cheating with on his wife. One of them, the main one, right behind him that he was cheating on his wife with, had her in the background while he was making videos. To These are not sources. The father is a source, right? A source should be something that teaches you what you're trying to become. If they are not qualified to be real husbands, fathers, men, then they are not sources. Therefore, by definition, they are not fathers. You think father is only dealing with the masculine. Fathers need to also be able to take into account the feminine. Let me not be so quick to talk about masculine only, because see, the further you get away from femininity, once again, you actually get out of pocket. When you try not to have femininity, you actually lead into femininity. If you are masculine only, you will start acting feminine. If you are feminine energy only, you will start asking masculine. Somebody said that doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because Ankh, it balances us out. So I, as a male, masculine should be more masculine than feminine, but I still must have both together. It's even in something as simple as empathy. It is impossible to be empathetic to my wife. It is impossible to be empathetic to my daughter. It is impossible to be empathetic to my mother, right? It is impossible for me to be empathetic to our sisters. It is impossible for me to be empathetic to half of my community, half of my culture, half of my people, if I cannot even identify with femininity at all. Her divine nature, her needs to take care of herself, her need to feel secure, her need to be loved. If I can't identify with that at all, then I'm not going to be worthy of being a husband, a father, any of it. You're only thinking about Andrew Tate and what he did in the ring, right? In an octagon. What did you do in the home? 40 years from now, a generation from now, if you have it, though, if you're an Andrew Tate supporter, 40 years from now, a generation from now, and if you had it your way and all these little boys didn't care about women, what do you think that does to society? All right, Shabbat Shalom, Sister Carrie. What do you think that does to society when nobody care, when everybody says a mother is only to be a servant? What do you think that does to the next generation of girls? What do you think that it does to the next generation of boys? Okay, Jules, I don't know what that even has to do with stuff today, but okay, thank you. What do you think that does to society? And even to be a success, by definition, you have to be a success. You have to have a successor. Who's going to be the next Andrew Tate? Which one of his children going to be next? Take it to whatever arena you want. Which one of your children? Which one of your children do you want to mistreat women? So you don't think that it's mistreating women to, you know, be in a whole barefoot, naked in the kitchen. I can have sex with them, and if I want to, I'll have sex with them way the way they feel like trash. But once again, you don't even have the capital to do so. See, he's rich, so he gets to get away with stuff that you can't get away with. It's not that it's proper. It's just that, hey, he can pay women off to shut up and do whatever he says. And some women don't have enough self-respect, so they'll go ahead and let him do whatever he says. See, now I get it, because a lot of you come from places and societies where you're not allowed to be masculine, where they're telling you you can't be a man, where they're telling you your voice should be stripped. And so you think when I'm telling you hold yourself accountable, hold your head up, be worthy of the crown that you want put upon your head, you think that I'm yet another voice telling you not to be who you're called to be. No, I'm somebody telling you that you need to be able to actually look at things correctly, because guess what? Andrew Tate ain't a real man, bro. He's just somebody who can fight. And I ain't mad at it if Andrew Tate wanted to fight or do whatever with me or whatever. First of all, I've gone through training myself, been in the military, all that. I got a little bit of training as far as fighting and stuff like that, as far as even outside the military. And I promise you, like, I'm 6'5.5", sometimes be all the way up close to 300. I promise you, Andrew Tate ain't gonna be a problem for me if you know how fighting works anyway. Andrew Tate fights in a weight class. I'm not tripping off of that. I've been in fights before. I lost some, I won one. I won some. I said won one. Right? I fought some, I lost some. That don't impress me, because you can beat somebody up, bruh. And if we fighting for real, like all rules, all bets are off. Andrew Tate will tell you that himself. Like the octagon fight is a different fight. So even when you respect that, like an octagon fight ain't the same as fighting in the street. If somebody decides they want to fight me in the street, be ready to die. Because I come from a military mindset that says that one of us got to go home to our family. Both of us believe in what we're about to fight for, but one of us going home. See, even my fight is not just about myself. If I lose the fight in my mind, if I lose the fight, I better fight as much as I can. Because if I lose in my mind, I'm conditioned to be like, what if I don't make it home to my wife? What if I don't make it home to my children? Andrew Tate just fights to be able to say he can lift a gold belt or whatever it is. That don't mean nothing to me because you wore a belt around your waist. Just like you got the blind leading the blind, you got the fatherless leading the fatherless. If I got to throw him, I got to throw him, right? Right. So I'm just saying, but anyways, the honorable mind, she's got class tonight. At least I believe there's class tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead, take my leave. I've gone a little bit over. I apologize for that. Those who have class, hopefully we'll see you at class in a little bit. Thank you so much. We appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. Once again, this was not to try and get everybody to agree. This is just to give you a cultural perspective. Feel free to look up the recording on YouTube if you like to. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time for the live session where we continue our Sermon on the Mount series on Kofi_43. By the way, we have now Kofi_40 is back. Kofi_42, as we're on today, is back. Kofi_43 is going. So we have 3 live platforms. I'm trying to figure out how in the world we're going to get all those going, but just keep listening for further instruction. But we'll see you tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. And Minister Morel, he's going to give us a word, 10 a.m. Eastern New York time for the Shabbat Shalom service on the Kofi of 40 podcast. Thank you so much for being on. We'll be back on Kofi_42 on Monday evening. We'll be using Kofi_43 to get us through the rest of the rising sessions this weekend. Thank you all again. We appreciate you. We honor you. Take care. Fathers, stand up. Yashdel, stand up. Kwam Yashdel. Thank you so much. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you, Sister Beverly. And we appreciate you doing so in advance. As always, we want you to remember that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom, family. Take care. Peace.